Hello, Mr. Charles Willoughby, the Inspector General for Washington, D.C. My name is Eric Sheptock. I'm better known as the homeless advocate. And in the past week, I've actually read a couple of articles in the D.C. Examiner which had to do with your work around inspecting the D.C. homeless shelters and what's being done for D.C.'s homeless. Now, first of all, I want to commend you for really looking into this issue, and I'm glad that you're putting pressure on the city to do better by its homeless community. And while you're really on their tail about how they are failing the homeless community, I really want to connect with you. And what I have in my hand right now is a printed out copy of the latest article, which had to do with the failure to inspect DC's 65 homeless shelters. And, well, you know, in a past conversation with DHS employees, what I found out is that the city actually is liable for the actions of the homeless community even when they're not in shelter. If the homeless do anything on the street, then they don't call the cops, they call DHS. And so I'm going to pose this two-part question to you, which is this. First of all, is it true that all homeless people in D.C., whether or not in shelter, are the responsibility of DHS, that is Department of Human Services? And is that true even when they commit crimes or act unruly on the street? And then the second part of that question is, how far does this responsibility extend? Does it extend only to maintaining homelessness, or do they actually have to get people out of homelessness? Now, in this article, I see that you, Mr. Willoughby, are really pressuring the city to get people beyond homelessness. And once again, I commend you for that, and I want to encourage you to keep the pressure on them. I also want to meet with you to see how we can work together to really put pressure on the city to get folk out of homelessness. As a homeless advocate, I know that homeless people don't want to remain homeless. Many of them lose hope and feel like they can never find a job that pays a living wage, and they can never find affordable housing, and they can never get into the government subsidized housing. They've lost hope. Oftentimes that gets misinterpreted as them wanting to remain homeless, but I assure you, if you go to any person who is not severely mentally ill and you ask them if they want housing, they will say emphatically, yes, I want housing. And those who are mentally ill, well, you can't really say they made a choice because they're off the meds and they're not thinking clearly, and you can't qualify that as a choice. And so let's come together, let's figure out when and how we can meet, and we can really hash this thing out, and we can work collectively to pressure the city into getting the homeless out of homelessness. And I'll end by saying that as far as I know, we could lose anywhere between 1,200 and 2,000 shelter beds for DC's 7,000 plus homeless beginning in April of next year. And that is an atrocity. And not only is it an atrocity for the homeless, but it's an atrocity for the public at large, because as they go to the clubs and the bars and the evening church services, they'll be stepping over more homeless people. And so it doesn't just affect the homeless directly, but it affects the larger community. So we all need to come together to prevent this atrocity. Thank you.